Today we're taking a look at the Colombo, a ship that I certainly don't play very much anymore. I liked it when it first came out, but that was really just down to it being new and different. This fuel smoke was pretty fun to play with, the sap was pretty disgusting, but it's got some significant disadvantages, especially in the meta these days. This ship, for good reason, is not played very much. I think the lack of range, the really poor dispersion, and the really big reliance on Sansonetti is really what holds this ship back. It could be good. I think that the 360-degree turrets in the back is really cool. The fuel smoke is awesome, and you're going to see a couple of really good uses of it in this game. But I just think the sap ammo type really is the downfall of this ship. I know that's kind of the gimmick, and the interesting part about the ship is you have sap. It just seems like it gave up too much to gain that ammo type. 16 guns, but they're so inaccurate. If you made them a little more accurate, I think this ship quickly becomes OP because sap is disgusting. And you have to be very careful with how many sap shells you allow someone to consistently land on other ships. So that's really the conundrum of the Colombo, where this ship really doesn't play very well in the long-range engagements of Tier 10 these days, and it's not the most enjoyable experience without Sansonetti at all. Very much was a ship that was balanced around using Sansonetti. Probably not quite as much as the Italian DDs were, but still, you want Sansonetti for that one kill, giving you at least decent range. So they buffed it, right? Nobody was really playing it, it wasn't performing very well, and they buffed it. This was a couple patches ago, I just haven't gotten around to it. So what did they buff? They buffed the expert loader, or they baked in some expert loader, gun feeder, whatever it's called these days, where if you're switching your ammo type, you're going to have less of a penalty than on other ships, right? So that's really useful on a ship that wants to use sap, it wants to use AP whenever the situation arises. But it doesn't change the fact that this ship doesn't always get the best dispersion. And it doesn't matter what ammo type you're taking, especially when it comes to AP. You really need good accuracy with AP since you're only doing damage to really citadels at this point. So much of ships are just going to get overpenned, especially on cruisers these days. So it is more likely you're going to stick with sap with this ship. And I can see the idea behind buffing the Colombo with this expert loader buff or gun feeder buff, and it's cool. I honestly really enjoy the new expert loader. There's no more trying to time the expert loader to try and figure out when is the best opportunity to swap shells. You just swap shells whenever you feel like you need to, and it's very simplified, and it works really, really well. I think it was a good change overall, this gun feeder expert loader change. And the extra buff that the Colombo got was cool, but I don't see it being incredibly impactful. This, by the way, was not one of the good uses of smoke. I think I just fat-fingered the wrong key on my keyboard when I was going for a heal or a spotter plane, something like that. So a bit of a waste, but that's okay. I think that this ship is still not good, though. Overall, I'd probably still rather play a GK than a Colombo, but it's one of those two that's got to be one of the lowest and worst tier 10 battleships. It's one of these two. Mainly down to the poor accuracy, poor caliber, poor range, in a meta where there's so many good ships at long range, the Condi being one of them on the enemy team here, and it's very tough to play at close range. And this is a good game. This is going to be a great game. We're just getting started here, and it really is because of the map. There is a carrier here, no sub to deal with, fortunately, but this map allows me to push up and not have to deal with this long-range HE spam as I'm trying to get into position. But as we know, most maps don't play like that anymore. Most of them don't have these gigantic islands that block shells, that block vision, that allow you to push up as a battleship, as a radar cruiser, as a DD. And it makes it very difficult to play Colombo on other maps, where you're forced to play at range, and then you're just not even within gun range of the enemy ships. There are tons of battleships and cruisers these days that have extremely accurate, good damage output outside of 20 kilometers. And Colombo doesn't even have that range. Unless you take range mod, which I wouldn't really recommend, since having a near 40-second reload on a ship like the Colombo feels pretty bad. At least on a Vermont, you have some pretty insane accuracy to go along with that alpha damage. Colombo has the alpha damage and the long reload, but it doesn't have that accuracy. So I really want to be running reload. In fact, I'm doing a lot to run extra reload here, even taking the upgrade to when someone's spotted within my secondary range, I get a 10% reload again, trying to help out that close range DPM for the times that when I do get into closer range engagements, my ship can actually perform reasonably well. Unfortunately, I do overlead the Malta on the enemy team, so no dev strike there for me, unfortunately. And it is nice to be able to swap the shell ammo type quicker. That is a really nice buff that we use there, but it's not game-changing. It's not pulling the Colombo up out of the worst tier 10 battleship conversation. So overall, I think this ship could use a few buffs still. I think if they wanted to, this would be a huge overhaul and a massive change. Give me sap secondaries on the Colombo and remove the sap from the main guns. Give me HE and AP, tighten up the dispersion a little bit, give me a little more range on the main guns. I think you'd have a pretty interesting ship on your hands still, and one that could play a little better in the current meta without feeling so gimmicky when it comes to main gun caliber sap, where if I happen to get insanely good RNG, I'm going to 30k you. And if I don't, I'm doing next to nothing. Here, by the way, is a great example of the fuel smoke being very, very useful. I'm overextended. I'm probably going to die. The carrier's coming in. And we use our smoke, and we disappear. This is a really great way to use the smoke, where a lot of other battleships probably end up dying here. Even if it is a GK or a Preussen, which has that close range, turtle back, tankiness, I think that this fuel smoke, as a bit of a get out of jail free card, is extremely powerful and a lot of fun to use. It's just difficult to find those engagements where it is so useful because you're not playing at closer ranges like that on most maps. Keep in mind, this one is one of those rare games where it's coming down to the wire. Our team is losing, but it's still not a blowout, right? We're only, 6 minutes left on the clock, and the game still isn't quite decided yet. That's not always going to happen. I think, as we know, a lot of matches are decided in that first 5 minutes, and that's kind of unfortunate for a ship like the Colombo, which can't really even get into firing range within the first 5 minutes unless you fully overcommit. A nice blind fire on the Minotaur on the enemy team. Of course, Minnows are made of citadels, and with Colombo just scattershotting AP around, it's likely we're going to hit a citadel or two. So that felt pretty good. And swapping between AP and SAP to get the right ammo type to finish off the Condi feels pretty good too. It's not like this ship is completely obsolete. It can have good games. I just think overall, it's very reliant on the matchmaker, it's very reliant on the map you get, and the enemy team actually pushing in and not just sitting at range and forcing you to push in to even get in gun range. That's kind of one of the unfortunate sides of the Colombo, is you just can't really play at those longer ranges. Even with range mod, it still doesn't have the best range compared to a lot of these other tier 10s and super ships. This is another good use of fuel smoke if you're wondering about playing this ship overall. Use it to go dark and not take some smoke up HE spam. That's a good way to use it. And here I get a little too greedy for the AP. If that was a sap shot, I think I don't know if I kill him, but I do a lot more damage there. Sap is just so much better than AP unless you're getting citadels. Unless you're going to get a citadel, you should just be using sap, and that goes for basically all sap in this game. Venezia as well. You just want to be spamming sap, which makes the buff to expert loader not as impactful as you may think, because sap is just such a good ammo type. Here's a great example. Bow on Iowa. Not a great angle, and we still do 12k. It's a really disgusting ammo type, and you want to be using it at all times, unless you can get those citadels. So I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I really did want to take a look at Colombo when it got buffed. I just didn't get around to it with the last update being the anniversary and trying to play through all the tier 10s and get all of that done. Puerto Rico Dockyard, still not quite finished that one. There's a lot going on, and I still got to take a look at this battle pass now that it's out on the PTS, and I was gone for a week. So all of that said, I think Colombo could use a little bit more. I finally got around to it. Those of you that have been playing it this update, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Maybe there's something I'm missing here, but this ship feels like it could use a little bit more. And if they overdo it, then it becomes OP, and I don't want that either. I would just love to see them rework or just remove SAF. I think that that ammo type is just super problematic for balancing, where you're going to get a ship that isn't going to really play all that well because it has such an overpowered ammo type. This game, of course, did come down to the wire, but unfortunately we don't have the HP to actually finish it out. Perhaps with my build, if I had had an extra heal, you'll see after this game the build I was using, maybe I can clutch it out, but even then, I'm against a carrier, even if I am able to survive against this Marceau. And who's to say, if I had more HP, it's likely the Marceau doesn't open up at such a close range, and they just win on points anyway. So, with that fire, that is going to be my ship dead. It's still a good game though. 200k, feeling pretty good about that one. Even though it's a loss, it was not a blowout, so that's always nice to see. Got a Dev Strike, high caliber. It's pretty good. So like I said, we are using Sansonetti since this line is so reliant on him. Unfortunately, you only get one Sansonetti, and all the Italian ships want to use him. So it does mean you want to be swapping him out for whatever ship you're playing, which kind of sucks, and that's really expensive to do. So really just put him on whatever ship you're probably going to play the most and enjoy it. That's what I would be doing. So generally, he actually stays on Venezia. But I figured if I'm going to look at the buffs, I should look at the ship in its fullest potential. And this is where maybe I got it wrong. I went close quarters combat plus a little long range secondary battery to give me that 10% reload buff. And I think I did make use of it this game. We did see this icon popping up and gaining that reload, and we did quite a bit of damage. It's just that, you know, maybe that extra healing in this match would have helped me a little bit more. But it's up to you how you want to play it. This ship should not be built for secondaries, though. The reason is these secondaries don't pen anything. They just are useless. 5% fire chance isn't even that good. The accuracy's bad, the range is bad. So the reason I spec'd a little bit secondaries was simply for the main gun buff. Main battery mod 3 over range mod. Like I said, I think it's just so sad to be playing Colombo with range mod. The reload goes up to like 37, 38 seconds. It's just so sad. I think that it's really difficult to play reload mod though too, so keep that in mind. Don't feel bad if you play range mod just for comfort's sake, and if you want to play your Colombo, that's totally fine. Aiming systems, I'm using steering gears. Very nice with those 360 turrets to feel very maneuverable, and yeah, it's a fun ship with this fuel smoke. It's very unique, but I don't think it's in a great spot right now, even with these buffs. So thank you very much for watching. Again, let me know what you think in the comments below, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.